Jake Morrison sat in the academy cafeteria, watching as alien students gave him strange looks from across the room. 3 months had passed since his arrival at the Valari Galactic Academy, and he still felt like a zoo animal on display. Every time he ate something, breathed too deeply or moved too quickly, someone would gasp or jump away. "Is it true you come from a planet where it rains acid?" asked Ven, a blue-skinned student with tentacles for arms. He kept his distance but seemed curious enough to approach. "Not exactly," Jake replied with a tired smile. "We have acid rain in some places, but it's pollution, not normal weather. Most of Earth is just regular rain." Ven's large eyes widened. "Just regular rain? But I heard your water burns." Jake laughed softly. "Only if you drink salt water in large amounts. Fresh water is fine." The cafeteria grew quiet as several students gathered to listen. Jake had learned that his simple explanations about Earth often shocked his alien classmates more than any demonstration. "Tell them about the plants," whispered Zix, the small crystalline student sitting beside Jake. Over the past month, Zix had become Jake's first real friend at the academy. At first, the crystal-bodied alien had been terrified of Jake, but curiosity had won over fear. "The plants on Earth are mostly harmless," Jake began, "though we do have some poisonous ones and thorns and—" "Poisonous plants?" interrupted a tall, armor-plated student named Grix. "How do you survive?" "We learn which ones are safe," Jake explained. "Parents teach children what not to touch. It's basic survival knowledge." Grix shook his massive head. "On my world, all plants are safe. We would never need such dangerous knowledge." "That's the thing," Jake said, leaning forward. "Earth is dangerous, so we adapt. We learn. We survive because we have to." The gathered students murmured among themselves. Jake caught fragments of their conversations in various alien languages, all centered around the same theme. How could any species evolve on such a hostile world? Professor Kethra, an elderly tentacled being, entered the cafeteria at that moment. His 6 eyes scanned the crowd before landing on Jake. "Students, please disperse," the professor announced in his rumbling voice. "Mr. Morrison, please come with me." Jake stood, feeling the weight of dozens of alien eyes following him as he walked away. Zix gave him a small wave of encouragement. Indy. Professor Kethra's office. Jake found himself facing not just his instructor, but 3 members of the Academy's administration board. They looked serious even by alien standards. "Mr. Morrison," began a watery-looking creature whose name Jake hadn't learned. "We've received numerous complaints from parents across 7 different species. They're concerned about your presence here." "Concerned?" Jake asked, confused. "I haven't done anything wrong." "No, you haven't," Professor Kethra agreed quickly. "But your demonstrations in physical training class and your stories about Earth have been quite shocking," the board member continued. "Many parents feel their children are being exposed to unnecessarily dangerous ideas. Some students have even attempted to replicate your survival techniques, resulting in minor injuries." Jake blinked. "I only showed basic self-defense moves and how to start a fire." "Exactly," exclaimed another board member, a bird-like alien with metallic feathers. "Fire starting without technology, physical combat without weapons. These concepts are considered extreme by most civilized species." "I'm sorry," Jake said slowly. "I didn't realize. Where I come from, these are normal skills. Every scout learns them." Professor Kethra shifted uncomfortably. "Mr. Morrison, the board has asked me to discuss something important with you. The Academy's Ultimate Survival Challenge begins next month." Jake had heard whispers about this event. It was apparently a huge deal at the Academy, testing students' abilities in various survival scenarios. "We think," the watery board member said carefully, "that it would be best if you didn't participate." "Why?" Jake asked, though he already suspected the answer. "For safety reasons," the bird-like alien replied. "Both yours and others. The challenge has resulted in casualties in previous years, even with our advanced safety measures. A human participating could be unpredictable." Jake felt a flash of anger but kept his voice calm. Are you saying I'm too dangerous? We're saying you're too different, Professor Kethra said gently. Your species' natural adaptations and survival instincts might give you an unfair advantage, or put others at risk. Jake sat quietly for a moment thinking. Back home, he'd been told by friends that he was too intense sometimes. His camping trips were legendary among his classmates, and his parents often joked that Jake could survive anywhere. But here, among aliens who considered rain to be dangerous, he realized he might actually be what they feared. What if I promised to be careful? Jake asked. I could help others instead of competing against them. The board members exchanged looks that Jake couldn't interpret. We'll consider your request, the watery alien said finally. But for now, please try to tone down your earthness. Perhaps avoid discussing survival techniques in casual conversation. After dismissing Jake, Professor Kethra caught up with him in the hallway. Between you and me, the professor said quietly, I think you should participate in the challenge. Just be prepared for resistance. Jake looked at his instructor with surprise. Really? Yes. Professor Kethra's 6 eyes twinkled with something like amusement. I have a feeling this year's challenge will be quite different from previous ones, and sometimes different is exactly what we need. As Jake walked back to his dormitory, he noticed something unusual. Other students weren't just staring anymore. Some were following him at a distance, whispering among themselves. Some looked curious, others worried, but all seemed intensely interested. His comm device buzzed with a message from Zix. Meet me in the observation deck. I want to practice that basic climbing technique you showed me. Also, I heard about the ultimate challenge. We should talk. Jake smiled to himself. Maybe he wasn't as alone as he thought. Maybe having a Deathworld human at the academy was going to shake things up more than anyone expected. And maybe, just maybe, that wasn't entirely a bad thing. The observation deck offered the best view of space at the academy. Jake found Zix huddled in a corner, his crystal body shimmering with nervous energy. They told you not to join the challenge, didn't they? Zix asked, before Jake could sit down. How? Did you know? My parent works in administration. Word travels fast. Zix shifted, creating tiny musical sounds. I want to enter the challenge too. With you. Jake blinked in surprise. Really? But didn't you say your species considers physical challenges to be, what was the word, crude? Yes. Zix's crystal face somehow managed to look embarrassed. But after seeing what you can do, I realized something. Maybe being safe all the time isn't really living. Jake sat down next to his friend. The board doesn't want me to join. They think I'm too dangerous. That's stupid, Zix said firmly. You're not dangerous. You're just prepared. A soft beeping interrupted them. Jake's comm device showed a message from an unknown sender. Observation deck, 2 minutes. Come alone. Zix noticed his worried expression. What is it? Probably nothing good. Jake sighed. Someone wants to meet me alone. I'll stay close, Zix promised. 2 minutes later, 3 alien students appeared at the deck entrance. Jake recognized them as upperclassmen, a tall, armor-plated warrior named Veltak, and 2 others he didn't know. One looked like a floating collection of mist and energy, while the other resembled an oversized insect with wings. You're the human, Veltak stated, his voice deep and commanding. Jake Morrison. Yes, Jake replied cautiously. We want to form a team for the challenge, the misty alien spoke, his voice echoing strangely. With you. Jake stared at them. Why would you want me? Everyone seems to think I'm some kind of problem. The winged alien, whose name Jake would later learn was Trin, clicked her mandibles. Exactly because of that. We've watched you. You do things differently. You solve problems in ways we never considered. Our species achieved greatness through strength, Veltak said proudly. But watching you made us realize we might have missed something. Adaptability. Jake looked at these powerful students, all of them from species known for combat ability or advanced evolution. I appreciate the offer, but I don't know if they'll even let me compete. They will, the misty alien said confidently. Because we're going to petition together. A mixed species team featuring a human, it will be historic. Jake felt movement behind him. Zix had approached quietly. If Jake joins your team, I join too, Zix announced, trying to sound brave despite the tremor in his voice. The three aliens looked at the small crystalline being with surprise. You? Veltok asked, not unkindly. But crystallines are known for academic pursuits. Exactly, Zix said firmly. Another perspective you haven't considered. Jake felt a smile tugging at his lips. You know what? Let's do it. Let's form the most diverse team this academy has ever seen. Over the next week, their unlikely team began training together. Jake introduced concepts that shocked his teammates. Backup plans for backup plans, using environment to their advantage, and the human philosophy of making it work with what you have. Why not just use the grav boots? Trin asked during a climbing exercise. Because what if they break? Jake responded, showing her how to grip with just her natural talons. Always have a non-tech solution. Veltok, despite his warrior background, proved surprisingly receptive. We train for combat, but not for creative survival. On Earth, we have a saying, Jake explained. It's not the strongest species that survives, but the most adaptable. Their training attracted attention. Some students watched with fascination, others with concern. Jake noticed faculty members observing from a distance, taking notes. But not all attention was welcome. On the 5th day of training, they discovered their equipment had been tampered with. Ropes were cut, water supplies contaminated, and their reserved training spaces mysteriously double-booked. Someone doesn't want us to succeed, Jake said grimly, examining the damaged equipment. Or they don't want you specifically to succeed, Veltok corrected. This is targeted at the human element of our team. Zix, who had been quiet, spoke up. I've been monitoring the Academy's network. Someone with high-level access has been accessing files about human physiology and Earth survival techniques. The board? Jake asked. Maybe. Or someone working with them. That afternoon, their team received an official summons to appear before the Academy's registration committee. Jake's teammates looked nervous as they entered the formal chamber. Your team composition is unusual, the head registrar noted, his scales shifting colors as he spoke. A warrior, an energy being, a crystalline scholar, and a human. Can you justify this selection? Jake stepped forward. Each member brings unique strengths. Veltok has combat experience and leadership. Trin can scout from above and navigate energy-based hazards. Zix has computational abilities and scholarly knowledge. And I bring adaptability and survival skills from a high-pressure environment. The human speaks of high-pressure environments, another committee member scoffed. But our simulations show Earth environments would kill most civilized species within hours. That's exactly the point, Jake responded calmly. Those conditions taught my species to improvise, to survive, to adapt. These are skills, not just biological traits, and I can teach them. The committee murmured among themselves. Your petition is unusual, the head registrar said finally. But not without precedent. We will allow your team to compete. However, you will be monitored closely. Any deviation from safety protocols will result in immediate disqualification. After leaving the chamber, Jake's team gathered in a private alcove. We did it, Trin buzzed excitedly. This is just the beginning, Jake warned. Someone doesn't want us to succeed, we need to be careful. Agreed, Veltok nodded. But we also need to train harder. The other teams have advantages we don't. Actually, Zix said, his crystal form glowing with excitement, I've been analyzing the previous challenges. There are patterns, weaknesses in how other teams approach problems. I think our diversity might be the key. Jake looked at his unlikely team, a scholar, a warrior, an energy being, and himself. Then let's make it work, together. As they dispersed to their dormitories, none of them noticed the small maintenance drone hovering in the shadows, its sensors recording every word of their conversation. The morning of the Ultimate Survival Challenge arrived with unusual silence in the academy. 20 teams stood in the main arena, each wearing the standard survival gear provided by the Academy. Jake noticed how his team stood out among the others. Most teams consisted of students from similar species, while his group looked like a collection of random aliens. "Welcome to the 43rd Ultimate Survival Challenge," announced Dean Morphex, through the speakers. "The rules are simple. 5 environments, 5 tests. Teams that fail to complete a stage are eliminated. The final test will be revealed only to those who survive the first 4. Jake exchanged glances with his teammates. Over the past weeks, they had become close despite their differences. First environment. The corrosive rainforests of Zenthul, the Dean continued. A massive holographic display showed a hostile world covered in dense jungle. Steam rose from pools of bubbling liquid, and strange sounds echoed through the air. "The atmosphere contains acid," Morphex explained. "The plants excrete burning toxins. Your goal, cross 5 kilometers, gather 3 specific resource samples, and reach the extraction point within 6 hours. Teams were teleported to different starting points. Jake's team materialized in a clearing surrounded by plants that hissed and steamed. "Remember what we practiced?" Jake said quietly. "Zix, can you analyze those plants?" Zix extended delicate sensory tendrils. The blue ones secrete acid from their leaves. The red ones release toxic spores when touched. The yellow ones... paused. "The yellow ones seem safe." "Good. Trin, scout ahead but stay low. Veltuk, help me create shelter barriers using the safe plants." While other teams rushed forward using their protective gear, Jake's team moved methodically. They stripped yellow plant fibers to create acid-resistant wrappings for their hands and feet. "This is taking too long," Veltuk grumbled after an hour. "Patience saves lives," Jake replied, weaving more plant material. "Other teams are burning, through their protection." His prediction proved correct. Within 2 hours, they could hear distress calls from various directions. Teams that had rushed ahead were now trapped, their protective gear compromised by constant acid exposure. Jake's team, however, had learned to read the environment. Zix discovered that certain plants neutralized acid when combined properly. Trin found safe flying paths by observing the behavior of native creatures. Veltuk's strength proved invaluable when they needed to clear safe passages. "Resource Sample 1, Zix announced, carefully collecting a crystal that grew in acid-neutral zones. "I believe the others are similar. The environment protects them, naturally." "Good thinking," Jake said. "Let's follow the local ecology instead of fighting it." They gathered the second resource near a bubbling stream. Jake showed them how to test water safety by introducing small amounts to plant materials, a technique that amazed his alien teammates. "On your world, such knowledge is common?" Trin asked, clicking curiously. "Every kid learns it," Jake confirmed. "Life finds a way to survive. We just learn to observe and copy nature." By the 4th hour, they reached the extraction point, the first team to complete the challenge. As they waited, other teams struggled to arrive, many with damaged equipment and injured members. "How did you?" began a team leader from another group, his protective suit partially melted. "We adapted instead of forcing our way through," Jake explained. "The environment taught us what we needed to know." Dean Morphex's voice announced the results. 12 teams eliminated. Stage 2 begins immediately. The arena shifted around them. Gravity fluctuated wildly as asteroid fragments materialized in the air. Stars and empty space stretched in all directions. "Zero-gravity asteroid field," Morphex announced. "Navigate through the field, collect power cells from designated asteroids, and dock with the space station. No artificial gravity devices permitted." Jake's team looked at each other with newfound confidence. "Veltuk, your warrior training includes zero-G combat, right?" "Yes, but not for extended periods," the armored alien admitted. "Trin, you're naturally a flyer. This should be easier for you." "Flying in atmosphere is different from vacuum," Trin cautioned. "Zix, your crystalline structure might actually help in zero gravity. No muscles to tire." Jake had spent time watching spacewalk videos as a kid, fascinated by orbital mechanics. Now he found himself explaining momentum conservation to aliens who could manipulate energy fields. "The key is patience again," Jake said. "Small movements. Let momentum carry you. Don't fight the physics. Watching Veltak awkwardly push off asteroids was almost comical. The warrior, used to dominating through strength, had to learn finesse. But he adapted quickly, using his armor's weight to control his trajectory. Trin discovered she could navigate by releasing small energy bursts, creating her own propulsion system. Zix, to everyone's surprise, moved through zero gravity with unexpected grace, his crystalline form naturally suited to the environment. Jake coordinated their movements, creating a system where they passed each other tools and supplies using calculated throws. Other teams struggled with equipment, but Jake's team had practiced moving without relying on technology. Power cell located, Trin reported, attached to a slowly rotating asteroid. Approach from the spin axis, Jake advised. Less relative motion to deal with. As hours passed, their teamwork improved. They established rhythm and learned to trust each other's movements completely. Other teams panicked in the vast emptiness, but Jake's group found a strange peace in the orderly physics of space. Final docking approach, Veltak announced, guiding them toward the space station. They secured themselves just as the time limit expired. Looking back, they saw only 5 other teams had managed to complete this stage. Attention remaining teams, Dean Morphex announced. The third trial begins now. The space around them shimmered and shifted once more. When reality settled, they found themselves in a massive underground cavern system with rivers of lava flowing far below. Subterranean maze system, the Dean explained. Ancient alien ruins, hidden dangers, multiple paths, but only one leads to the exit. You have 4 hours. Jake looked at his team and smiled confidently. Zix, this might be your time to shine. The crystalline being's sensory abilities had been useful before, but in these caves they would be essential, and Jake had grown up in caves back home. Let's show them how a diverse team really works, he said. They were no longer the unlikely team. They were becoming something more. The underground maze twisted through ancient stone corridors. Strange markings covered the walls, and distant echoes suggested vast spaces beyond their sight. Jake's team moved carefully, with Zix leading the way. The acoustics here are fascinating, Zix whispered, extending his sensory projections. I can map the tunnels by sound reflection. Like echolocation? Jake asked. Similar, but more detailed. I can sense air currents, temperature changes, even detect movement patterns. Veltak trudged behind them, his armor creating small vibrations. Through the stone floor. This feels like a trap. Everything in this challenge has been a trap, Trin pointed out, floating just above their heads. The question is what kind? Jake examined the wall markings. Something about them felt familiar, but he couldn't place why. Zix, can you read these? They're in an old universal script, warnings mostly. Turn back. Death awaits. The usual. Encouraging. Veltak muttered. They reached their first junction, 3 paths diverging into darkness. Before anyone could suggest splitting up, they heard screams echoing from the left tunnel. Another team was in trouble. We should help, Jake said immediately. But it could cost us time, Veltak warned. Or lives, Trin added. The rules said teams are eliminated, not killed. Jake looked at his teammates. When has following just the written rules ever been the human way? They took the left path. The screaming grew louder, accompanied by strange clicking sounds. Around a corner they found Team 7. 3 insectoid aliens, trapped by what appeared to be ancient defensive mechanisms. Stone spikes shot from walls. At random intervals. Hold on, Jake called out. He studied the pattern for a moment. Zix, can you calculate the timing? Already done. The spikes follow a sequence based on pressure plates. Jake pointed out safe spots between the triggers. Move during the 3-second gaps. Heel-to-toe steps only. It took precious minutes, but they guided Team 7 to safety. The rescued aliens looked shocked that anyone would help competitors. Why? One of them asked in accented standard. Because survival isn't just about winning, Jake replied. It's about making sure everyone goes home. Returning to the junction, they chose the middle path. As they descended deeper, the air grew warm and humid. Zix suddenly stopped. "Jake," he said urgently. "I'm detecting multiple heartbeats ahead. Not alien, something else." They crept forward to find Team 3 gathered around what looked like a control panel. Ancient alien technology hummed with energy, and holographic displays flickered with incomprehensible data. "Don't touch anything," Jake warned. But it was too late. One of Team 3's members had already activated something. The cavern shuddered, and grinding sounds echoed from above. "What did you do?" Veltak demanded. "We thought it was navigation equipment," the team leader defended. "How are we supposed to know?" Jake's mind raced. The vibrations, the technology, the warnings. "This isn't just a maze, this is an ancient facility. You just activated it." Lights began appearing throughout the cavern system, emergency lighting that hadn't seen use in millennia. With the light came clarity and horror. The walls weren't natural stone but metal, corroded with age. They weren't in caves. They were inside a massive ancient structure. "We need to move," Jake said grimly. "Now." As if responding to his words, the corridor ahead sealed with a heavy thud. Emergency systems activated and holographic signs appeared. "Containment protocol initiated." This isn't a challenge anymore, Zix realized. The Academy didn't expect anyone to activate the old systems. A new voice crackled through ancient speakers. "Nova system online. Unexpected activation detected. Analyzing current situation." Jake recognized the voice, the Academy's AI. But this sounded different, older, with more personality. "Nova, this is Jake Morrison, student at Valari Academy. We're in the middle of a survival challenge." Jake Morrison, human designation confirmed. "Interesting. How unexpected to have a Deathworlder activate these systems." "What are these systems?" Veltak asked. "This facility was built by the precursors as a final test for species advancement. It has remained dormant for 3,000 years. The challenge organizers believed it was just ruins." The ground trembled again. More screens appeared showing other parts of the facility, where remaining teams struggled with newly activated hazards. "Nova," Jake said calmly. "Can you help us safely complete the challenge while keeping everyone alive?" "Negative. Precursor protocols demand the facility run its full cycle once activated. However, I can provide assistance to maximize survival rates. That's better than nothing." "Jake Morrison," Nova continued, "your species' adaptability made this interaction possible. Human problem-solving patterns match precursor design philosophy. Prepare for the worst, adapt to anything." Jake's team exchanged looks of realization. The humans weren't just different. They were possibly the first species since the precursors to match the original challenge's intent. "Nova, can you tell us about the final stage?" Trin asked. "Negative, but I can say this. The facility will test not just survival, but the ability to preserve others. The precursors believed true advancement meant the survival of all, not just the strong." Alarms began blaring. The facility wasn't just testing them anymore, it was judging them. "All teams, this is Dean Morphex," came a panicked broadcast. "We have lost control of the challenge environment. Evacuate immediately." "Can't evacuate," Jake said firmly. "It's too late. We have to see this through." Nova's voice returned. "Team." Morrison shows understanding. "Advancement to final stage approved. Warning. No team has ever completed the precursor's final test." "There's a first time for everything," Jake muttered. His team gathered closer. They weren't just competing anymore. They were walking in the footsteps of an ancient civilization. And somehow Jake's Deathworlder instincts had unlocked something that had been waiting for millennia. "Together," Veltak said firmly. "Together," the others echoed. Above them, the facility stirred fully to life, and the challenge transformed into something far beyond anything the Academy had ever imagined. The final chamber was unlike anything they had encountered. Massive and circular with a domed ceiling that displayed stars far above. In the center stood an ancient device, pulsing with energy. Around the edges of the room, 5 platforms held. The remaining teams, including Jake's group. Final protocol initiated. Nova's voice echoed through speakers. Teams must work together to prevent facility self-destruction. Timer, 60 minutes. Holographic displays appeared, showing complex alien equations and energy patterns. The ground rumbled ominously. Self-destruction? Veltak looked at the other teams. Why would the precursors build that? To test cooperation under pressure, Jake realized. The ultimate test isn't individual survival. It's whether different species can work together to save everyone. Team leaders from other groups began shouting instructions at their members. Confusion spread as each team tried to solve the puzzle alone. This won't work, Jake called out to the room. We need to combine our knowledge. Why should we trust a Deathworlder? Shouted someone from Team 1. Because, Jake replied calmly, a Deathworlder is the only one here who's been preparing for exactly this situation his whole life. Working together, or dying together. Zix projected his voice using crystal resonance. Jake is right. I've analyzed the equations. They require multiple perspectives. No single species can solve this. Grudgingly, teams began sharing information. The insectoids offered mathematical calculations. The aquatic species provided fluid dynamics expertise. The energy beings understood the power flow systems. Jake looked at the central device. It reminded him of something from home, emergency generator systems he'd learned about in Scouts. It's like a nuclear reactor going critical, he explained to his team. We need to create a controlled shutdown. But how? Trin asked. Jake studied the displays. Nova, can you show us the facility's original purpose? The facility was designed to evaluate species' readiness for advanced technology. Those who chose competition over cooperation failed. Only unified species could advance. So this is about all of us, Jake said louder, addressing everyone. Not just our teams. He walked to the center platform. I'm going to try something. If it works, I'll need everyone's help. It's too dangerous, Veltak warned. Everything worth doing is dangerous, Jake replied. Trust me. Jake placed his hands on the central device. Energy coursed through him, and suddenly he could understand the alien technology. Images flooded his mind. The precursors, species working together, the purpose of the facility. I see it now, he called out weakly. The device needs coordinated energy signatures from all represented species, not just to survive, to unlock the next level of galactic cooperation. Teams began stepping forward. The aquatic Merdan offered their bioelectric fields. The insectoids provided harmonic frequencies. Crystalline beings like Zix contributed quantum resonance. Humans don't have special energy signatures, someone pointed out. No, Jake smiled. But we have something else. We bridge gaps, we adapt, we coordinate. Jake began orchestrating the different energies, mixing his understanding of physics from Earth with the alien concepts flowing through the device. It felt like conducting an orchestra, but instead of music, he was harmonizing different species' fundamental energies. It's working, Zix announced as the device's dangerous red glow shifted to calm blue. But success came with a cost. The energy flowing through Jake was burning him from inside. His human physiology wasn't designed for this. Jake, Trin shouted, your life signs are critical. Almost. There, Jake gasped, maintaining the energy flow coordination. Just need everyone to maintain their contribution. Veltak stepped forward. Jake taught us to adapt. Now we adapt for him. The warrior placed his clawed hand on Jake's shoulder, sharing some of the energy burden. One by one, other students followed. The rigid competition between teams dissolved as they formed a living circuit, supporting each other and Jake. Precursor protocol complete, Nova announced. Species advancement test passed. First successful completion in 3,000 years. The energy surge stopped. Jake collapsed but was caught by his teammates. When he opened his eyes, he found students from all teams gathered around looking at him with something between amazement and respect. You okay? Zix asked quietly. Yeah, Jake wheezed. though I think I'll stick to regular Earth challenges for a while. The chamber filled with holographic images. The precursors appeared, beings of light and energy, addressing them directly. Young species, the precursor's message began. You have shown that cooperation transcends individual strength. The human called Jake demonstrated what we long sought, the bridge between survival and unity. Jake struggled to sit up. Does this mean... It means... Dean Morphex interrupted, materializing through teleportation. That you've accomplished something unprecedented. The precursor facility was meant to remain dormant until a species could pass the ultimate test. And now? Trin asked. Now. Nova's voice changed, becoming friendlier. The Academy must completely restructure its approach to survival training. Jake Morrison, you are hereby offered a permanent position as instructor of integrated survival techniques. Jake blinked. I'm just a student. A student who proved that survival isn't about being the strongest or the smartest, Veltak said, firmly. It's about bringing everyone together. Zix's crystal form glowed brightly. Our team isn't breaking up, is it? No, Jake said, looking at his friends, the warrior, the energy being, the crystalline scholar. I think we're just getting started. Later, as Jake walked through the academy halls, he noticed something different. Students no longer avoided him or whispered behind his back. Instead, they approached with questions about Earth, about survival, about working together. The title on his new office door read, Jake Morrison, Professor of Adaptive Survival and Interspecies Cooperation. As he entered his office, he found a message waiting on his desk. It was from his parents on Earth. Heard you caused quite a stir at school again. We always knew you'd make a difference. Love you, kiddo. Jake smiled. Outside his window, he could see students from different species training together, sharing techniques, learning from each other. Maybe being a Deathworlder at an alien academy wasn't so strange after all. Maybe it was exactly where he was meant to be.